Hello, my yarny friends. I'm Sara Sach, and welcome back to my crochet channel. Today is our Scrap Happy project day, and we're going to make this Scrap Happy blanket. Now, my Rosie girl, if you've been following me, you know she had to go and have a little surgery on her paw, and she had to go see the doctor about her back when she jumped off the bed. She hurt herself. Well, we took her favorite blanket with us so that she would feel more comfortable. And unfortunately, she had an accident. And the accident was so bad that I had to throw that blanket away. It was pretty nasty. Anywho, I decided to get into my chunky yarn stash. And these are all bulky number 5 and bulky number 6. I combined them because they're all acrylic yarns and made this beautiful blanket. Now, the thing about this particular stitch, a lot of people know it as the C2C or corner to corner. Now, any stitch can be a corner to corner stitch if you start it in a corner and go diagonally. It's also been called the diagonal block stitch. But when I first learned this stitch many years ago, they called it the crazy stitch. And so it has several names, but it has come back into popularity and is called the C2C or corner to corner stitch. And this is what we're going to do today. We're going to make this nice big blanket. This one measures about 36 by 36, and we are working on a square blanket today. In the future, I do have another one planned for a rectangle shape so that you understand how to make that shape as well. And this is just your basic corner to corner stitch, and then we added a trim with shell stitches just to give it a nice pretty trim. And of course, like I said, this is all stitched in my scrap yarns that were bulky number 5 and bulky number 6. Some of these you can see are a little puffier than some of the other ones. And I don't mind, since this is a blanket that is going to be used a lot, and so it's going to get lots of wear and tear. And just because I'm making this for my dogs doesn't mean it's a dog blanket. It's an anybody blanket. It makes a really nice warm blanket for your bed, or it's a great blanket to toss in the car, especially this time of year. Well, down here we're having lots of ice and snow. And so it's nice to have a blanket in your car. It also makes a nice baby blanket. Just choose baby colors if you want. It also, something that I used to love to use this type of blanket for, it was when my kids were little, I would put it on the floor. Then I could put their toys all over it. And then when they were done, I just gathered them up and dumped them in the toy box. I like things that I can do that are smarter, not harder. Now, you will find the complete pattern for this particular blanket on my blog. And as always, I'll put that blog link down in the notes underneath this video. All right, so now go gather up your chunky number 5 and chunky number 6 scrap yarns. And oh, if you don't have any of those, you can hold 2 strands of medium weight number 4 together. So the amount of yarn that you're going to need if you're using your bulky 5 and bulky 6 yarns is approximately 16 to 18 ounces, and that's depending on how tightly that you stitch. And of course, I'm also going to show you and explain to you how to make the blanket bigger as we go. All right, so if you want it bigger, of course you're going to need more yarn. We're going to be stitching today with our end hook that is a 10 millimeter crochet hook. That's right, a 10 millimeter crochet hook. And then of course you're going to need a needle that has a nice big eye on it for weaving in those ends, because we'll be adding in lots of different ends when we switch from all of our different colors of yarn. All right, and then of course you need a pair of scissors. Now these are the colors I'm going to be using for the demo. I wanted to choose colors that you could see what I was doing, and these are some I had from my stash. I don't know what their names are. They're just some that I had, and they are in my bulky number 5 bucket. All right, so the way a corner to corner or C2C works is that you're going to start in one corner and we'll go out like a big triangle. When it's the width that we want, then we'll start decreasing down to the other point. All right. And I just wanted you to understand how that works. All right, so I've got my yarn here. We're going to start with our slip knot, and we're going to chain 6 chains. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There we go. So I have 6 chains. I'm going to place a double crochet in the 4th chain from the hook. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's hard getting used to working with the big hook again. All right, and now I'm going to stitch 1 double crochet in these last 2 chains. All right, so now I've made a block. I've got my chain 3 here and 3 double crochets, and that's how the first block looks. Now we're going to chain 6 again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we're going to do here what we did down here. We're going to place a double crochet in the 4th chain, and then we'll stitch 1 double crochet in those next 2 chains. It looks a little funny, doesn't it? All right, so we're going to turn this one, and we're going to go in the space between the chain 3 and that first double crochet with a slip stitch and chain 3. So we chained 3, and now we're going to stitch 3 double crochets in this space between the chain 3 and the first double crochet of that block. All right. This was our first block, and then we stitched 2 blocks, and you can see already it's forming a V. If you can get this beginning portion, the rest of it is super easy. All right, let's do row 3. So we're going to chain 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're going to do the same thing we did. We're going to place a double crochet in the 4th chain, and then in the next 2 chains, 1 double crochet. Okay, so we're going to do that twist again, or turn. We're going to go in that space between the double crochet and the chain 3 with a slip stitch and chain 3. Now we'll place 3 double crochets in that same space. 1, 2, and 3. We'll go over here to the space between the chain 3 and the double crochet, slip stitch and chain 3, and stitch 3 double crochets in that same space. 1, it doesn't want to grab it. 2 and 3. So now we have 3 double crochet blocks made. And see, here's our point where we started, corner to corner. And this is how we will be increasing. Now we're going to do row 4. So again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Double crochet in the 4th. Double crochet in those next 2 chains. we're going to turn our work, go in that space between the chain 3 and the double crochet with a slip stitch and chain 3. 1, 2, 3, and 3 double crochets in that same space. So 1, 2, 3. We'll go to the next one, slip stitch, chain 3, and 3 double crochets in that same space. 1, 2, 3. Then we go to the next one, slip stitch, chain 3, and 3 double crochets. All right, so now we have 4 squares. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Let's do row 5. So again, we're going to chain 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Double crochet in the 4th. Double crochet in those next 2 chains. There we go. Turn our work. Go in the space between the first chain 3 and the double crochet, slip stitch and chain 3. All right, and then we'll repeat this all the way up. 3 double crochets, 1, 2, 3, slip stitch between the chain 3 and the first double crochet and chain 3, and then 3 double crochets in that same space. 1, 2, and 3, and repeat. Alrighty, now we're to our last block. Slip stitch, chain 3, and 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. So now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And see how that works? Every row we increase by 1 block. All right, let's do row 6. So again, we're going to chain 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're going to double crochet in the 4th chain. Double crochet in those next 2 chains. Turn our work. Slip stitch in between the chain and the first double crochet and chain 3 and 3 double crochets in that same space, just like we've done on the 5 previous rows. Whoops, there we go. Slip stitch in the space between and then chain 3 and 3 double crochets, just like we've been doing. And repeat. we go. Brings us to our last block here. Slip stitch, chain 3, one, 2, and 3 double crochets. All right, so now we're on row 6 and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 blocks. I think now you have an understanding of how the increases work on our blanket. And so what you're going to do is you're going to continue to repeat row 6, increasing every row for 29 more rows. All right, and so you'll chain 6, you'll do the double crochet in the 4th, and then in the next 2 turn your work and then work back up your squares and have 7, then 8, then 9, then 10 on every row until you get to row 35, which is an additional 29 rows. So you're repeating row 6 for 29 more rows, increasing by 1 block every single row. And again, you want to increase by 1 block every row, and you're repeating row 6 for 29 more rows, and that's if you want to make a blanket that is about 36 by 36 inches. If you want your blanket bigger, you can continue to repeat row 6 for as many rows as you would like. 1 row equals approximately 1 inch with this big bulky yarn. All right? So if you want your blanket bigger than 36 by 36, continue to repeat row 6, increasing every row for as many rows as you would like. So I'm going to show you how to turn and work the other side of your square. All right, but I also want to show you how to change colors, and I want you to be able to see what I do on this row. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out this last block, and I'm going to show you how I like to change colors on this particular project. All right, so we're going to say that I ran out of yarn here, so I'm going to go ahead and clip that, and I'm going to bring in my new color. So what I do on the last double crochet of the 3 in my blocks is I'll start my double crochet, and then I'll finish it with my next color. That way I get a nice solid block. And when you're working with lots of different colors, this is probably going to happen a lot in changing. And I don't always do that, but this is my favorite way to do it. And then when I do my next block, it is also a solid color, even though it's in the middle of a row. 1, 2, and 3. All right, so now I'm going to show you how to come down and start decreasing on the other side of our blanket. One thing to remember though is you're going to have a lot of these to weave in, and what I do is I'll take that, I'm not tying a knot, I'm just putting them together like that. I call it a stay knot, until I can come back in with my needle and weave those ends in. And when I'm doing a large blanket like this, I'll go ahead and do a bunch of them, and then one time when I'm sitting down, I'll weave in a whole bunch of the ends in. All right? All right, let's learn how to decrease our blanket. So we're going to chain 1 and turn our work. We're going to slip stitch in that first stitch, and then in the next 2, just slip stitch. There'll be 3 slip stitches there. Then we'll slip stitch in that chain space between our chain 3 and our double crochet, and then we'll chain 3. All right, and there's where we tied off Move those out of the way. We're going to stitch 3 double crochets in that space like we've done when we were increasing. 1, 2, 3. All right. So now we've got like a straight right there, and that's where our decrease is. All right. So we'll go to the next space between our chain 3 and our double crochet, slip stitch, chain 3, and 3 double crochets in that same space. And so this part is the same. The difference is we're going to be decreasing on the second half of our blanket in order to get it into the shape of a square. All right, pull out some more yarn there. All right, so I'll go to my next one and do the same. Chain 3 and 3 double crochets. 1, 2, 3. Now another thing I wanted to add, I should have said this a little bit earlier, is when you're doing all of your tie-offs, I try to make sure all of mine are on the back side of my work. And with this particular type of stitch, it looks the same on the front as it does on the back. And so you just decide which side's going to be your back and just make sure all your tie-offs are to the back. And then you can do all your weave-ins on the back, okay? Thought I'd mention that. All right, I'm just going to work up this edge, slip stitch, chain 3 and 3 double crochets. 1, 2, 3, and slip stitch in the next space there, and chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and 3 double crochets. 1, 2, 3. Now this is where the end is different. So what we're going to do at the end of this row is we're still going to slip stitch in that space between the chain 3 and the double crochet, and we're going to chain 1 and turn. And I want you to look at this because this is the front of our work, and you can see where we have that line there. And now we have a straight edge on this side. And now we're ready to do the next row. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to slip stitch in those 3 double crochets. Then slip stitch in that space and chain 3. 1, 2, 3. And see how that gives us a nice flat edge? All right, so now what we're going to do is just repeat what we've been doing. 3 double crochets. 1, 2, 3. Slip stitch in the space between the chain 3 and the double crochet, and chain 3, 3 double crochets. And then we'll repeat this till we get all the way back up over here. So I repeated our block stitches up. Here's where my last block stitch is. So I'm going to go in that space, chain 1 and turn, and then I'm going to slip stitch in those 3 double crochets. Slip stitch in that space between the chain 3 and the double crochet, and chain 3. Okay, and so now let's look at this. Now we have 3 blocks that are all lined up on this side and 3 blocks that are all lined up on this side. And this is the way the decrease works. Instead of gaining a block each row, we're decreasing. All right. So on this next row, we'll have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, and then 1. And of course, I'm working off our swatch. So you're going to have a whole lot more blocks. Because we have 35 rows, you'll be decreasing from 35 down to 1. And it's done exactly the same as the swatch. You just have more rows. So let's finish decreasing our block. Even though this is a swatch, the end of it is done exactly the same. I just have a lot more, or I should say I have a lot less blocks to decrease. Slip stitch, chain 3, and 3 double crochets. 1, 2, 3. Slip stitch in that space and chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Slip stitch in that space, chain 1 and turn. And again, slip stitch in those 3 double crochets and slip stitch in that space and chain 3. And so now I just have 2 more blocks and 1 more to decrease. So when you get down to the corner of all your blanket, and of course again you're going to have a much bigger blanket, this is just a swatch we're working off of. I'm going to show you how to finish off, okay? So I have my 3 double crochets. Again, I'm slip stitching in that space and chaining 3 and 3 double crochets. 1, 2, 3. Again, I'm in that chain 3 space, chain 1 and turn. I'm going to slip stitch in those 3 double crochets, slip stitch in that space and chain 3. And this is my last block. So I'm going to stitch those 3 double crochets. 1, 2, 3, then slip stitch in that space, chain 1 and turn, and then you'll just stitch 1, slip stitch in those 3 double crochets, and then slip stitch in that chain 3 space and chain 1. Now, if you want to continue to use this yarn that you're using for your trim, you can. I'm going to change back to my beige so that you can see what I'm doing with the trim. And of course, this is just a swatch, but you're going to get a blanket. Like I said, if you do 35 rows, you'll have 35 increases, and then you'll have those same decreases down so that you have we started on this corner, we stitched across, and then decreased down to 1 block on this corner. The big blanket works exactly the same. So I chose a really simple trim, and I'm going to go back to using my beige so you can see it against the blue. All right, so we're back to the corner. I'm going to bring in my new color, and when you're at the end of the row, you can just bring it in normally, and then of course we'll weave those in. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to single crochet in the corner. We're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to go to the next space and single crochet. 1, 2, 3. We'll go to the next space, and we're single crocheting in those spaces around. 1, 2, 3. Go in that chain 3 space. 1, 2, 3. So we're single crocheting in, oops, I missed the space. There we go. In the space where we have our chain 3s, and then chain 3. 1, 2, 3. You'll go all the way across till you reach the corner. Make sure that you put one in the corner, single crochet that is, and then chain 3 and go to the next space. And we'll do this all the way around the blanket. And this is going to give us stitches where we're going to put our shell stitches around. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. There it is. Got to search for it sometime. And that's the way the beginning of our trim works. So we're single crochet in the corner, chain 3, single crochet in each of those chain 3 spaces with chain 3s in between, and make sure you single crochet in all 4 corners so you have a nice even look for your blanket. All right? We'll just go right in that corner. There we go. Single crochet, 1, 2, 3. And then we'll just start doing the spaces. I keep wanting to call them stitches. The spaces where we have our chain 3s. And we'll go all the way around all 4 sides of our blanket. I have finished this all the way around my swatch. And this is what it'll look like on a swatch, of course. It looks bigger on our blanket. And when we get back to the corner, we're going to go right in that first single crochet with a slip stitch. There we go. We'll go ahead and chain 1 to get us where we need to be. And we're going to go right in this chain 3 space. We'll stitch a single crochet. All right, and now what we're going to do is we're going to go in the next chain 3 space and stitch a shell stitch. And our shell stitch is 4 double crochets, not single crochets, 4 double crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. So then we're going to go ahead and go in the next chain 3 space and stitch a single crochet. Then we'll go to the next chain 3 space and stitch our shell stitch. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Pull that yarn away a little bit. Okay, and this is the way that the trim looks. Single crochet in the chain 3 space, shell stitch in the next chain 3 space, single crochet in the next, 4 double crochets for our shell stitch in the next, and repeat, working all the way around your blanket. And again, our shell stitch is 4 double crochets. It's a nice big shell stitch. Okay, I'm at the corner. When you get to your corner, just move on around it just the same way. Don't change anything. We're just moving all the way around. Our entire blanket. And don't worry if you have to change colors in your trim. It just gives it a little bit more, you know, pizzazz. I love this trim. I think it's super fun, super easy, and I also think it looks really nice with this particular corner to corner stitch. All right, so you'll just do single crochet, shell stitch, single crochet, shell stitch, alternating every other chain 3 space all the way around your entire blanket. And when you get finished, you'll just join back to your first single crochet. So this is the way that your trim should look around the edge of your blanket. Here's our chain 3 spaces with our single crochets, and then we have our single crochet shell, which is 4 double crochets. All right, now one of the things that might happen when you get to the end, you may have, especially if you added more rows, you may not line up exactly to join up your shell stitches and your single crochets. You may have an extra single crochet, you may have an extra shell stitch. It doesn't matter, just put it together and it'll look really, really pretty. And I absolutely love the way this particular blanket worked up. And you can see that I've got variegated. I've also got striping yarns in here. I've got a little bit of speckle yarn in here. This is another variegated. I've got solids. I've got sparkles. I just got in my yarn stash, like I said, and I grabbed all my 100% acrylic yarn. That was a bulky 5 and a bulky 6. And I put them together in this nice, thick, warm blanket. And now Maximo and Rosie has a nice, warm blanket that I hope they don't mind sharing with me.